All right, well, this is roundtable number 14. I can't believe there's been so many. Today, we're going to talk about webinar hosting, and I think it's probably one of the most important things that you can do as a practitioner. There's so many great things that you can lead people to, not just product purchases, but also acquisition of clients, just general gaining interest in who you are, establishing your expertise. Also, inviting them to other webinars and courses that you might have. So I love to do webinars, and I take my webinars and I turn them into courses and small giveaways or downloadable assets. So think of a webinar as a done one time, but a use case that you can, use in multiple places and touch points also over and over again. So I did create a document for you guys, and I'm going to share that here. I will make this available in the Get Healthy EDU so that you have this and can refer back to it. So I wanted to start first with, what platform do we use for webinars? This really comes down to need. So Zoom and GoToWebinar. Does anyone use GoToWebinar anymore? I don't know. But Zoom overall has kind of taken up the space of webinars. And the benefit of Zoom is a few things. Number one, you can do a live webinar with Zoom, which is really nice. So you can get on there, you're live, you're talking to people, they are in the webinar with you. You can also establish it as a meeting. So when you have a Zoom account, most of the time, if it's free or you have the lower end paid for, it's usually enough. A meeting is going to let other people in like this, where you're all in a box, and it's kind of like the Brady Bunch effect, right? Where you can turn cameras on and talk and have an interaction. When you convert a Zoom meeting to a webinar, that feature goes away, but you still have the opportunity to chat with your audience and take open Q&A. Now, what's the benefit or the difference? Well, sometimes you can get yourself into trouble in meetings when people have their cameras on and they don't know they have it on, or you have people that are disrupting your webinar because they don't know how to mute their mic. So when you convert a Zoom meeting to a webinar, you have more control over, the atmosphere that's occurring in your webinar. So what I will say is, if you're going to use that webinar again for future things, you might want to convert it from a meeting to a webinar. It is an additional cost, but if you know that it's going to be successful or you have a lot of people registered, it's usually worth it. Second, a meeting will only allow for so many participants in the room. So when you're hosting a Zoom meeting like this, if there's 100 people or 300 people signed up for your webinar, you'll only be able to put 100 in your room. So it could lead to a bad experience if you have a really successful lead gen for your webinar and you have 200 to 300 people signed up. At that point, I would tell you pay the additional $9 and convert it to a webinar. So those are kind of the benefits of Zoom and GoToWebinar. I personally don't use GoToWebinar, not that it's not a good one, but Zoom gives me more application diversity so that I can choose a webinar versus a meeting if I want it to be interactive like we do with the roundtable versus silencing everyone and keeping everyone under control. All right, so the other thing that those platforms offer are the open Q&A chat. There's also poll features, and they have the ability to stream into other applications like Facebook groups, your Facebook pages. You can also Zoom into YouTube and other applications, all different ways that you can use Zoom. If you want to use Zoom in that way, you have to integrate it or add the app as a hosting site to whatever it is you want to stream to. So on Zoom, you'll have to go to your advanced features and you have to allow for live streaming, and then you pick the applications and you're ready to go. It's pretty simple. Now, if you want something where you're going to be pre-recorded and then scheduled, so maybe you want to get a series of webinars out, but you're not going to have that kind of time, and you want to just get these streamed and out there, this is probably what my team should do with me, because I'm kind of like Jello and trying to nail me down is really impossible. And I feel bad for Courtney most of the time. But you can pre-record these webinars and then you can actually schedule them out and they could get replayed automatically. And there's features in that application. It kind of looks like it's live and simulated. So that's kind of a cool feature. And I see your questions. I'll answer in a second once I get through the choose a platform. Okay. And then Webinar Jam is kind of like all in one. So you can record the webinar, it can be live, you have control of your audience, it can be interactive, or it can be automated and scheduled and look like it's real. Now, the nice thing about Webinar Jam, and it's going to be more expensive than these other applications, and I'm going to give you my here's how you should start recommendation. It gives you landing pages, and it also has a great capture for lead gen. So lots of applications out there. If you've never done a webinar, or you're just going to start out doing these webinars, start simple. You know, we eat the elephant one bite at a time. We don't expect everyone to be this massive webinar guru. I mean, I've been doing webinars for years and I still use Zoom. I just utilize that recording in different applications moving forward. I put it in follow-up flows. So it has served me well. But if it comes to a point where I would need a bigger application or I need to pre-schedule things, I'd probably move to another system. So I'm just going to take a look at your questions real quick. Do I convert before the meeting or after? I need you to clarify that question. Can this be a free version or only? No, it can be a free version, Christy. You're just not going to be able to do with Zoom on the free version with a group more than 40 minutes. So just know that, because it's going to kick everybody off. When you have a paid version, you can do longer. Now, most people's attention span may not last that long. So I usually tell people, make your webinar 30 to 45 minutes, make it interesting, save time for Q&A. And Sherry Ann, clarify your question, because I don't know if you're converting what is my question. All right, let's talk about steps to a successful webinar. So I talk about 4 things when you're doing a webinar: planning, promotion, engagement, and follow-up. So first, cold selling people on a webinar doesn't work. You can't just be like, hey, I'm doing a webinar. And they're like, wow, and they sign up. Let me go back to your question. Converting from a meeting to a webinar. Oh, I'm sorry. It has to be before. Yeah, you have to decide that. I mean, you can decide minutes before, but it's usually stressful. So yes, and the way that I look at this, Sherry, is if you are promoting a webinar and you have 50 people signed up in the first, I don't know, promotional asset that you put out on social media, and then because you should be promoting, not like Tracy, which is like a week before, you should be promoting a little bit longer than that. That way, if you've never done this before, then you have time to make that decision. It's not that expensive to convert. And it's really going to also determine your call to action, right? Because at the end of a webinar, you're going to want those people to do something with you. That's called a call to action. Now, if your call to action is nothing, like, hey, I'm just doing this out of the goodness of my heart and I hope you really enjoyed it, I may not spend the additional money unless I know that I'm going to make revenue later. I mean, you can, I'm not trying to sound mean, but if I know that I'm going to lead them to an appointment or a product purchase or another webinar or a paid for a course, and I see that I'm capturing a big audience, a couple hundred people, I'll convert it to a webinar just to keep control, because you get 100, 200 people on a webinar and you're trying to go through the participant list and mute people that are talking and they're on the phone. And, there's people that just aren't tech savvy. So they're talking to their husband about how they can't see anything. This is very disruptive. So also, if you have guests on your webinar or panels, you're going to want to do that before. You're going to want to assign who your co-host is or your panel expert is prior to the webinar. And I know this is a lot to take in. My whole thing for today is just to glean a little bit of interest on webinars and that they are super beneficial, kind of give you a structure. And then if you have any further questions, you can ask me or your account managers that will help you. We're also doing a roundtable that's going to teach you how to start promoting. Our first roundtable is starting the first week in November. So I hope you're all registered for that, because we are going to do all of these things live and interactive with you. We're going to actually teach you how to make graphics. It's all going to be very hands-on. It's almost like a paint and sip, but without paint or alcohol, but still fun, Yeah. So boot camp, I know I'm promoting, Courtney. Give me a hot minute. So let's see, back to successes. Courtney and I have like the same brain, except she's smarter than me. So planning. First, you have to decide on the purpose of your webinar. I think people worry about the content so much that they're just out there throwing paint on the wall but they have not, sealed up the trim and protected other things and, got the right colors and put the primer on. So it's just about just splattering stuff out into the universe, which is fine because you will gain a few followers. But most of the time people ask me, what do you price your webinars at? Well, it depends on what the goal of the webinar is. If I'm giving away free valuable content to lead gen them to a product, or to lead gen, meaning pull them into a course or pull them into an appointment with me, I may do it for free because I know I'm going to make the residual income later. But if I'm just doing a webinar for informational purposes only, because it's something that people really want to know about, I'll put a small price on it. And I'm going to give just enough. I'm going to give just enough to get their interest, to be like, wow, that's really cool. I think we overdo either free or small fee webinars. And it's like, the consumer's like, wow, this is great, but it's a lot, right? The other reason that I will sometimes put a small price on a webinar is because when people pay for things, they show up. When they don't, when it's free, they don't think it's valuable. I mean, I have probably given away some of the best business advice in these roundtables, and the attendance live is never high. They know when they're coming, but the commitment to it isn't there because they're free. And I understand that because I do webinars all the time. The one webinar that I put a $27 price to, I had over 350 people sign up for it. So people will pay for valuable content if it is a topic that resonates with their interests. You can't just throw out, oh, I'm doing a webinar on health. Well, that can cover a lot of ground. So you want to clarify what you're going to be talking about. And I always take it to really simple points. If we're going to talk about GI issues, I'm going to talk about medications that might be causing you more issues than help. I'm going to talk about how did you get here? And I'm going to talk about 2 simple things that can get you out of the problem. So people that are coming to my webinar know exactly what I'm going to be talking about. If it aligns with them, they'll come. If it doesn't, they won't come. And so not everybody needs what you have to say. Not everyone's your audience. And you don't want troublemakers. You don't want people coming into your webinar saying that webinar stunk. It had nothing to do with my health issue. So by defining what you're talking about, you'll refine the audience that needs you. And it's okay that it's 10 people, 12 people, 100 people, because it's those people that are most engaging with you that are actually going to implement things. And so even from these roundtables, I've watched the people that attend all the time. I've watched their numbers grow over the last 14 sessions because they're here and they're implementing things. I've watched them meet with the account managers and put strategies in place. So remember, you have to have a purpose. Our purpose for these webinars is to help you grow revenue and also increase your patient compliancy. Also to diversify your offering to the market. It's loud out there. It's noisy. People don't know what to do or where to go. So by teaching you small skill sets that you can apply all the time, you're going to become not only great practitioners, which you already are, but better business people in the business of natural health. So you also want to set measurable goals. Like your first time out of the gate, maybe you'll get a couple hundred people. That's great. But you might not. And that doesn't mean it's a fail. If you get one person, you've succeeded because somebody wanted the information that you have offered. So the other thing is you can have 100 and some registered people. Like I think we have close to 100 people registered for the roundtable, but live, we only get 10 to 14. You're only going to get about 25% of the people that register for your webinar. It also depends heavily on time. So when we're talking about promotion, you have to choose a time and date that will be considerate for your audience. We deal with multiple time zones here, even international time zones. It's hard to nail down a time. It usually comes down to my availability, which isn't always great for everybody else. I mean, 12 Eastern is 9 o'clock Pacific. So people are just getting started into their day. It may not be an opportunistic time for them to, come and engage. We also want multiple channels of promotion, not just an email sent out, but we should be posting on social media. We should be taking that post and putting it to the story, adding a link, adding music, tagging people. We're going to be talking about all of this in the roundtable. You know, promotion of what you do has to be extravagant, even for the most simple thing, because people are constantly being bombarded by better marketing than what you're doing. So if you're not getting a lot of engagement on your webinars, you might not be doing the marketing that you need in order to get people to see it. And it's not because you're not trying, it's just you get pushed down in the feed. There's other things. Now you see promotional ads on your social media, and you're not in competition with other practitioners doing things. You're actually in competition with the social media platforms themselves. So use multiple channels, use something compelling, a cool name, a cool graphic. Like, don't just call it like GI health. I mean, super boring, right? You know, maybe use a little tagline like, tired of having to run to the bathroom every time you eat? Want to stop having gas around the one you love? Like, put out some funny taglines that make people go, oh my gosh, I have to go to this webinar. Like, that's totally me, right? And if you can get them to understand and align with you, they'll come. And so you want to have a good registration page too. Even if you use Zoom for people to register, and you should require registration because you want to capture that email list. You want to have those people that registered for your webinar. You want to have their emails and names so that you can export that list, and then you can import that list into your email software. And if you don't know how to do this, you need to talk with your account manager and come to our, now it's I lost it, Courtney, our boot camp, which is what I'm trying to say, which Courtney's going to throw into the chat so that you guys can register if you haven't already. I mean, the marketing team has spent so much time putting together little tidbits of information for you guys that are not overwhelming, that you can do as practitioners. Even if you're not tech savvy and you're not social media marketers, you can do it. And then the visual design. I get it, guys. We're not graphic designers. I'm not talking about it has to be beautiful. It's not a, Monet, although that looks really bad up close. You can take graphics that are already out there or funny memes that you see on social media, put your name and logo on it and the name of your webinar. If it matches what you're talking about, you can use it, right? So don't always think that you have to be a designer. But again, in our boot camp, we're going to teach you how to design graphics in a really simple way that are templated and you don't have to change a lot of things. All right. So engagement, there's a thing called cold selling. It's kind of like if I walked up to you and you never met me before, and I'm like, hey, do you want to buy this pen? Right? It's a great pen. You'd probably be like, I already have a pen, and who are you? And why are you trying to sell me a pen? So it's called cold selling. But if I started to wave to you from across the street and you wave back, and then I saw you in the coffee shop and we saw each other there like 5 times, and then I said, hey, I like your jacket. And you're like, oh, I like your jacket, and then one morning I'm sitting there and you say hi to me and I say, hey, come on, join me at the table. So you come sit down, we get to know each other a little bit. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, this is my favorite pen. I love these pens. They're so cool. They're like gel pens. I love how they write. And you're like, oh man, let me try it. And you try it. I'm like, well, you can have it as a free sample. Go ahead and take it. I have packs of them. If you ever need any, let me know. And so that's a warm lead, right? So I have nurtured you. You got to know me. You like me. You trust me. You like my pen. You like how I explained how I like my pen. So you have to engage your audience before you do the webinar. You can't just throw it out to the market. You have to go out there and be like, hey guys, let's talk about gastrointestinal dysfunction. Do you know that the top 4 medications in the world are prescribed for gastrointestinal issues? Do you know how much nutrient depletion is caused by that? Let me give you a few tips. So you start to throw out what's called free valuable content that leads people in, and then people start to engage on your post. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm on Prilosec. Oh my gosh, what about this? What about this? What about this? And so that's called market feedback. Now that you know you have a viable topic, you're like, oh, this is great. This is really good. So then you can start making your announcements through email, social media. You want to make sure that you include your registration link in all of your promotions everywhere. Don't just say link in the bio, because people are not going there. And when you say link in the bio, you probably have 50 other links in there. And if you're not making it bright, shiny, and fun, they're going to bounce. They don't care about the link in the bio. You can say it, but then you want to share it to your story. You want to put the link in the story and make it easier on their life. And you also want to send that link directly to people that you think would be interested. clients in the past who have suffered from gastrointestinal issues, family members. It doesn't matter who it is. Just start spreading the news and then tell those people, hey, spread this and pass it along to anyone that you think would know. Don't be afraid to promote yourself. Listen, there's 7.8 billion people in this world, and we're all kind of fat, sick, and dying. So we're not healthy, y'all, and people need what you have to say. So once registered, most of these webinar hosting platforms are going to have reminders. You can kind of schedule the reminders. I like to actually send a reminder right before. And then once the webinar starts, you should set a reminder to go 10 minutes into the webinar. So webinar is already started. 10 minutes in, send another reminder out and say, hey guys, you're missing it. We're 10 minutes in. And trust me, people don't like to miss out. They'll jump on. Start on time. You can do what I do. I usually get in here and give people time, chit chat around. You know, it's always nice to be engaging from the start. You don't just want to be like, okay, let's go. You know, you want to say, hey guys, thanks for being here today. I know that you take valuable time out of your calendar and I appreciate you spending it with me. I hope that you find this valuable, and I hope what we have to talk about today is enlightening. You know, just be engaging. Where are you guys from? Throw it in the chat box. I'm from Pennsylvania. Put your state in the chat box. Now you're starting to get demographic feedback. So these are all things that we should be doing every webinar. And then again, like I said, keep it conversational, keep an eye on the time, don't overdo it, because you guys, they're spending time with you. You don't want to overtalk. And you also, if it's going to be a long webinar, do allow sometimes for breaks and questions. It's okay to pause. It's okay to slow down. People tend to rush through things. So just keep in mind that you are in control of this webinar. All right. Thanks, Courtney. The link is in the chat for those that didn't see it. Okay. And then finally, once your webinar is over, you want to send a follow-up. And most applications will just send a general thank you. But what I normally do is export that list of people, import it into a segmented list into my email, call it what the webinar was, like attendees for, or you can tag them, you can add them to your list and add a tag. And that way, when you are going to send an email to those who had participated with you, registered for your event, you can just do it by the tag. And then you always want to put the recording link in there. Any resources that you discussed, something like this handout. And if you watch how Courtney will do this from behind the scenes, you get a nice landing page when you register for the webinar. There's a description of what you're going to learn in the webinar. You get a reminder that it's coming up. And then you'll see on social media, she posts it, then I grab it, I share it, I put it on my story, I put the link, I tag people, I send it to text message groups. Like there's things that you need to do before. But then after, Courtney will send out, hey, thanks. It's uploaded in the Get Healthy EDU. All the PDFs are there. And we try to make it as easy as possible for you to rewatch these things and go get the assets that you need in order to be successful. I'm going to tell you this twice, once here and once down here, because this is probably the most important part of your webinar. Include a call to action, not only in the webinar, but in the email. So I've given you 3 calls to action today. They were all the same thing. Join the boot camp. Here's the link. Join the boot camp. Here's the link. When Courtney follows up, guess what she's going to say? Here's the recording. Don't forget to join our boot camp. Here's the link. And the reason for that is because if I don't tell you what to do, you won't know what to do. Because you're going to get out there and you're going to be like, that's great information. Now what do I do? Right? So I might say, hey, come to my expert webinar class. Or I might say, hey, if you need some mentoring, reach out to me. Happy to do that. So there's different calls to action that you guys can do. You can say, join my course, schedule an appointment, buy this product. If you're going to do a buy a product, you know, usually 1 to 3, and also have a coupon code built. Again, when you join our boot camp, we're going to teach you how to do this because it's really important that you learn how to do it. And if you just did that, if you just did webinars with a call to action to a product purchase, you'd probably increase your revenue easily by $1,000 easily. Because if you can perform and deliver a great webinar that gives people value, they'll make the reflective decision to purchase what you talk about. If you want, you can gather feedback through short surveys. That helps you improve your webinars. Don't get offended. You're going to get the naysayers and they're going to like anything you do, but you're also going to get some strong feedback that is valuable. What I had to learn to do was stop the so's and ums, like so. What I've learned to do is just say nothing. So I will pause and not say anything rather than go, because when you do that, it brings down your credibility. It's not always perfect. I'll throw a so in there once in a while, but I've learned that I don't have to. I can just pause, think about what I want to say, and then say it. You also want to review your metrics. This is attendee rate, engagement. Are they watching the videos after? Did they register? Did they open your emails? That is called click-through rate. And again, marketing is going to go over these things. So there is an open rate and then there's a click-through rate, meaning they opened the email, they clicked on the link that you said to go register. There are different metrics that you can look at that marketing will be going over in the boot camp. Assess what worked and identify areas of improvement. So if you put your webinar out, nobody registered, you might want to assess, was it my graphic? Is it how I explained it? Was it just not a topic people liked? If people attended, but they didn't convert, you may look at package price. You may look at the fact that what you offered wasn't relevant to the webinar. So there's different things that you can truly look at to help you improve for next time. And again, if you need help, talk to your account manager or even our marketing department can help you. So a few pointers, because this is important. If you're not good on camera, that's okay. You can just turn your video off. I have done many recordings in the morning at 6:30, 7 a.m. in the morning. And trust me, I am not camera ready. Most of the time I'm not camera ready anyway. But it's okay to have the camera off. Don't be afraid to just turn it off, put up a graphic, put up a PowerPoint, put up a document. I literally made this document about 10 minutes before this class. If you're good at something and you do it a lot, trust me, it will flow right out of you into a document format, because really what you're creating is called an SOP, a standard operating procedure of how you do your thing, which is cool for people to actually have a map. Have an outline and notes so you stay on track. That's why I have this. Otherwise, I would be all over the place. This is my outline. These are my notes. I'm going to highlight certain things within them. I may not talk about everything, but I'm going to talk about the most poignant things that I have found to be most effective. Practice before the webinar. If you're not great on camera or you're nervous, just turn your Zoom on, record yourself. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. Record yourself and then watch it. Enlightening. Slow down. There's no rush. You don't have to get through the material super fast. And the people have already signed up and are there. You don't, if they have to leave, don't get offended. People pop on and off webinars all the time. I don't know, maybe the dog needed out. Don't take it personally. Now, if you're losing a lot of people during your webinar, that's probably not good. Again, ending with that strong CTA, that strong call to action, whether you're signing up for a demo, downloading a resource, contacting you for future discussion. There's a bug in here. Scheduling an appointment, buying a product, and make it easy. My call to action would be join our boot camp. The link is in the chat. Go do it right now before you leave, because once you leave, you're going to lose the chat. So everybody click on it right now. Make sure you register. It takes you about 35 seconds. And then if I can give you a tip, convert your webinars into some form of Go Green revenue. Whether you use something like Webinar Jam and you're just going to keep promoting that out and then you're going to charge for it, or you're going to put it into a learning management system, something like Thinkific, and convert it to a bigger course. And here's a couple reasons why. Usually the webinars that we do are the material that we say to people over and over again. And so if you can capture that into a course and put a small price on it and send it out to your network, connect product and product links from your Get Healthy store inside of that communication, whatever it is, you will make conversions not only of the webinar sales, but on the product sales. Very important that you're clear on your call to action and that you utilize these webinars as Go Green revenue streams, not just for product sales, but even just for education. I know that I have one called Foundations of Health that, I've told my team, I want to send out to people that are scheduled with me. We can give them a nice deduction on the price. I mean, it's $49. But if we want to be more generous, it's a 5-video series that teaches them nutrition, hydration, movement, sleep, elimination, emotional, spiritual wellness, and how to read food labels and what are in food labels that can be very detrimental to their health. It's stuff that people need. I mean, obviously, Kellogg's got in trouble. With that said, that is a Go Green revenue stream, and it does 2 things for me. One, it can really help my clients with understanding foundations of health, but also it saves me time in the consult. I'm not having to educate people on the base foundations. That is something that I would like them to do when they schedule with me. It's like, hey, you've scheduled with me. Please watch this course before your appointment. And so they don't feel all alone. They feel like they're making progress already. It's just something to think about as a practitioner. Remember, save your webinars. You want to download them from Zoom, put them into raw files, just save them on an external hard drive or even on your hard drive. And then you can upload them into other hosting sites, something like Thinkific, put a charge on it, build a course, and you can have some Go Green revenue. And if you link products to whatever you're talking about from your Get Healthy store, you'll not only make the sale on the course, but you're also going to make the sale on the product bundle. And I think we're going to be talking about courses in the next couple of weeks on the roundtable on how to build them, how to build outlines. So I hope you join that one. I'm going to pause for any questions or comments from my team. If there's anything I missed, Courtney or Andy or Candace, please feel free to turn on your mics and jump in. And if anybody has any more questions, let me know.
I would just
oh, go. Yeah, no, go.
I would just say, recycling the content that you put in your webinar. There are tools out there, like we use Cast Magic is one. It's an AI tool, and you can recycle what you've done and you can turn it into content that is AI driven. And so it does it for you. You can create a transcript. You can create from that like a blog, an email, social media post, all that stuff. And we'll cover that too in the boot camp. So you can use this, like content heavy, dense activity that you've done, just like Tracy did today, and you can recycle that. So that's something we'll be covering as well, but just wanted to bring that up as well.
That's awesome. That's how I did my book. I did a webinar for my clients. And it was just, they were messaging me at night, asking me like, what do I do for little Jimmy when he has this? And what about that? And so I just got on there and I said, all right, we're going to talk about the 50 products, whether it's an otoscope to a supplement that you need to have in your house if you're going to text Tracy at 10:30 at night. And so I did this whole webinar. I established protocols from the products, et cetera, et cetera. I took that webinar and I put it into Otter.io, which is a transcriber. It transcribed it. I took that transcription, I put it into another app called Designer, and I created a downloadable resource guide that I sell. And I've sold almost 1,000 copies of that resource guide to date. And it's just a really good thing because now I have this little tool that it was kind of a labor of love. I'm not saying it's easy to do those things, but once they're done, they're done. So just keep that in mind. Like Courtney was saying, Cast Magic, you can take your videos and you can chop them up into short segments. I use Descript. So I take mine, I put it into Descript, I transcribe it down, I take blocks of transcription, and I make promotional AI videos that I put out. Cast Magic's more geared towards that. So she has put that link in there as well. All right, guys. Well, I hope this was beneficial. Your call to action, 2 of them. 1, please sign up for the boot camp. Number 2, if you are thinking about a webinar download the document, pick your platform that you're going to host it on, come to the boot camp, learn how to create graphics, how to do follow-ups, use AI tools. What we try to do here at Get Healthy is step into the gap of, we understand you didn't graduate to be marketing people. We understand that you graduated to be practitioners, and you're in a sea of marketing and all of the other things that we never thought we would have to do. But again, it's kind of important for the business of natural health and what you do, because you're so valuable, that you get out there and learn a few skills. You don't have to learn them all, but learn a few skills. Talk to your account managers. Let them help you. They're excellent. Andy and Candace are both on here, and they will be more than happy to schedule some time with you just to go over some strategy. Christy, I 100% agree. The business part is super hard. I have a community of practitioners that we are starting a business just network, because it is hard. It's hard to be a business person, an entrepreneur, and they don't teach you anything in natural health school. So I hope that what we do here at Get Healthy, with the boot camps, with the roundtable, if you go back into the Get Healthy EDU and you watch some of the past webinars that I did, you know, we've done lots of business strategy in there. So again, take those principles, make an appointment with your account manager, and apply one thing. Remember, you eat the elephant one bite at a time, right? So apply one thing and put it into action and drive it. Don't try to do everything. It's tempting. It's tempting to get out there and be like, okay, well, I'm going to do webinar. Okay, now I'm going to do blog. Okay, now I'm going to do, you can, but perfect one thing, get comfortable with it, master it, and then do another thing. And if you just do it one step at a time, you will start to gain more followers and people that know that your material is quality, and it won't be so overwhelming with everything else you do. And let me know if you need any help. All right, guys. Well, I hope you have dumb question. It's on the website, gethealthy.store. Lori, she asked where the Get Healthy EDU is. That is our learning management, kind of our little education platform. Thank you, Courtney. Link is in the chat. Everybody hit that. Lots of great resources. All of our past webinars are on there. There's stuff about, you know, marketing and e-com and all that kind of stuff to help you. So all the roundtables are on there. Go get signed up. It's free. It's a resource to you. All the downloadable assets are in each one of the courses. So everything's in there. Courtney, thank you for being so fast on those links. And guys, thanks for attending. I hope you have a great week. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to marketing@gethealthy.store or your account manager, which would be Andy at gethealthy.store or Candace at gethealthy.store. If you don't know which one they are, Andy is PST and MST. So he's Pacific and Mountain, and Candace is Central and East Coast time zones. We try to keep it simple here. All right, guys, see you next time. God bless.